Laura, could you do the roll call for us?
Yes. Ryan Nee,
Here.
George Stanzio,
Here.
Vic Vasalino,
Present.
Amy Hunsucker,
Here.
Clark Patton,
Here.
Jeff Rigdenhill, Cameron White.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. And before we get started, I would like to remind the board to please speak into the microphones when you're making a motion or any other time. And remind you that the microphones pick up a lot. So you should assume you are always being recorded. All right, thank you. So on to agenda approval. Has anyone would like to make a motion to approve the agenda as
I'd like
submitted?
to make a motion to approve the agenda as sent.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The minutes, I hope everyone has had a chance to read the minutes and submit any changes to staff. Is there anything else, or I would entertain a motion to?
I have not gotten with staff. I didn't realize we're supposed to do that. I thought we'd do it here, but,
We can do it here.
okay. Because I did have something I wanted to make sure we had in there. We had a long discussion about the Minuteman, pardon my voice tonight, guys, about the Minuteman gas station last time, and there were a number of concerns that weren't really reflected in the minutes, and I'd like to make sure that that happens. We talked at length about the location of the detention pond, which really wasn't reflected. We asked why the retention pond was in the front rather than in the back. And we talked about the fact that it would have solved a number of the problems that came up not only here, but at the commissioners' meeting related to lighting and landscape and distance from the townhomes in the rear and so forth. So that whole discussion was really not part of the minutes. In addition, it was mentioned in the minutes that we talked about maintenance of the pond, but we really didn't, in the minutes, did not talk about, we talked about the sort of state-regulated maintenance, but not the landscape, lawn, and slope maintenance around the pond, particularly, along Live Oak. So I wanted to make sure we got all of that into the minutes.
Okay. Thank you. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented with, I don't know, do you want to make a motion on that?
Yeah, I'll move that we approve the minutes subject to the inclusion of the discussion related to the Minuteman special use permit, discussion that we had related to the location, maintenance, landscape, and lawn maintenance of the retention pond, particularly along Live Oak, that we include the discussion related to why the retention pond was in the front rather than in the back, and the discussion that we had related to lighting, buffers, and it's the gas station building's location relative to the townhomes behind.
All right, we have a motion. Would we have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, on to public comment. If anyone from the public would like to comment on anything, please come to the podium and state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. All right, not seeing anyone making a motion towards the podium, I will go on to new business. And we have case 2612, a special use permit at 1507 Live Oak Street.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
be asked to abstain from this hearing
To be recused from this? Okay,
for family interest.
for family interests. All right. Anyone like to make a motion to recuse Jeff?
I'll move.
Make that motion.
Motion to
Second.
recuse
Second. All right,
Jeff.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
May I ask a question about the agenda? I thought that we had deferred the election of officers to this meeting from the last meeting.
Did we do election? Jill was here?
I don't know. I wasn't here last
No, we
meeting.
deferred
Yeah,
it
last
until
week.
you got back.
Oh, okay.
That's a fair point. I would suggest we handle that at the end of the meeting under staff and board comments.
Correct. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. All right.
Thank you. Tonight, the planning board is asked to review and make recommendations regarding an application for special use permit to establish a gas station at 1507 Live Oak Street. I will present the application, then the applicant will have the opportunity to make a presentation, then the planning board will discuss and make a decision. I ask that questions are delayed to the end of each presentation. The proposed gas station is within the existing Huntley Plaza Shopping Center, which includes Beaufort Hardware, among other businesses. This is located at the northern corner of Highway 101 and Live Oak Street, where the roundabout is going in. This site is within the General Business B1 zoning district, which allows for gas stations as special uses. The convenience store and quick service restaurant components of the proposed development are permitted uses by right. The neighboring properties along Live Oak and across the street are also B1, and the single-family home and multifamily properties to the north and across 101 are zone R8. The future land use classification for this property and adjacent properties are commercial center. This future land use includes properties like the shopping center with Food Lion, the shopping center with Roses, and the recently approved gas station at 110 Towns Drive. It's characterized as an intensive commercial area that serves the greater area. All right, let's dive in on the proposed development. Since they're using an existing shopping center, considerably less site adjustments are required to accommodate a new gas station. This gas station is comprised of several components: the convenience store within the old Rollins or Redneck Barbecue end unit, which includes a quick service restaurant and retail; the fuel island canopy, which is proposed to the south of the convenience store in the existing parking lot; and above-ground fuel tanks and emergency generator, where the dumpsters are currently located towards the north of the property. There are several site features necessary to achieve these uses. The parking lot with 124 parking spaces that serve the entire shopping center, which is 33 more than the 91 required spaces to serve all these uses. 5 points of ingress and egress to Live Oak or Highway 101, with the northernmost access to 101 downgraded to an exit only as required by NCDOT. Sidewalks along Highway 101, which will connect the existing sidewalk at the northern edge to the roundabout project at the south. These sidewalks are subject to NCDOT approval as well as the driveway entrances. Landscaping plan is not required for this project. It does not, it meets the exemption criteria because the project is within an existing development and provides less than 15% impervious surface ratio change. The developer has voluntarily offered updated and additional landscaping as part of this project. No stormwater retention requirements are applicable for this project, as it is resulting in a net decrease in impervious coverage due to adjustments to paving and inclusion of this voluntary landscaping. The sign is shown in a newly proposed landscaping area near the corner of 101 and Live Oak, which will replace the existing sign that's currently on site along 101. Relocated dumpsters to accommodate for the above-ground fuel tanks and emergency generator are shown basically the top right corner. And there's existing pole-mounted lighting and lighting underneath the fuel canopy. I've provided this page from the 2012 entry master plan. It's a bit outdated at this point, but it provides some guidance regarding this intersection. It doesn't include much of the subject property other than to show sidewalks and a lower commercial sign, which are likely as a result of this application. Street trees are shown throughout the intersection within DOT right-of-way, primarily on the residential side of the street and along the roundabout itself. This comes from our more recent 2018 small area plan, which identified that the street trees would be planted along Live Oak, but not beyond the roundabout at Highway 101. These two plans, coupled with the overhead electrical lines, were in mind when determining not to require the applicant to install street trees in the street right-of-way adjacent to this site. These two plans help to inform the roundabout project design and several other improvements around town, but don't provide much guidance for this project specifically. And then I did a little drive-through of the property last week to take some pictures. So this is, if you're coming from the Burger King side, looking towards, with the subject property over towards the right, gray with red roof. We can see here, there's quite a bit of construction happening in the area, so it's a little noisy, the picture, but we can see to the left is that large sign that would be going away as a result of this project. And then along the middle, you can see those overhead power lines. This is the area that would be adjusted to have some diagonal parking spaces. The fuel tank would be in the front or towards the front of this picture, with the generator kind of behind the building a bit. And that driveway is proposed to be changed to an exit only. This is looking back towards the property. We're looking towards the roundabout. So we see the driveway area that used to serve the restaurant, and that would be adjusted. Looking at the parking lot, again, this would be the area looking towards this that the fuel canopy island would be. This is the front of the building, which would get adjusted as a result of the convenience store with quick service restaurant. And this is kind of a picture towards the roundabout, where later we would see the proposed landscaping island and new sign. There it goes. Zoning districts generally have permitted uses which do not require board approvals, and special uses which have additional oversight and some discretion by the Board of Commissioners. In order for a special use permit to be granted, specific required findings must be met. So this is a list of requirements against which to measure special use permit request. Tonight, we request that the Planning Board review the application, and with the LDO, and particularly Section 20.E in mind, make one of these recommendations. I can answer any questions the board has for staff now prior to the applicant's presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Does anyone have questions of Michelle regarding this?
I do, Michelle. DOT traffic study, was that done?
No.
To that point, though, there was mention in your report that DOT had been consulted with regards to the ingress egress, is that correct?
Yes, so a full traffic impact study, I don't believe wasn't submitted for the project, but DOT was consulted in creating this design.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So I assume that means we know that this will blend seamlessly into the roundabout, right? Because it's right adjacent to the roundabout. And
Yes.
DOT agrees.
And I'll let the engineer speak to that a little bit more.
Okay, all right. I don't know if this is a question for you or not. Why are the tanks above ground?
That's a good one for the applicant.
Okay. And are there details on the sign?
No, that's not typically required at the site plan or special use permit phase. We didn't do it for the last gas station either. They're just showing it as a proposed location, and then the sign will be required to meet LDO requirements once they do the sign permit application.
Okay.
Anything else?
Just to help my memory, there was a gas station there previously. I assume all the tanks are gone now?
So the gas station was forward on the property a
Correct.
little bit,
Right.
all the way in the corner up at the roundabout. So where they're proposing it is a separate property entirely.
And those tanks are gone, though, that were there previously?
We haven't investigated it.
I think I heard you say that there is plenty of parking on this site for this use?
Yes.
All right. And that there are restrictions overhead for the planting of trees along Highway 101 because of the overhead power lines?
Yes.
Are there any restrictions for the planting of large trees within the area currently occupied by the parking lot?
No.
Okay. And as part of this special use, we could, I know it's in the thing, but maybe for everyone who hasn't, I guess you guys all went through this last month, special use, all right. So we
The
have.
last gas station.
All right, so this is old hat for you guys. Okay. If there's no other questions of the board, I think we can go on to the
Can I ask
applicant.
just a question? Michelle, so street trees along 101, are there trees of any kind allowed?
My understanding is that small and medium trees have to have a certain buffer from the overhead power lines, and then large trees have a wider buffer. So the area where the power lines are don't provide right-of-way to allow for those even smaller, medium trees.
So the right-of-way is just too narrow.
Yeah, where the power lines are on the right-of-way, add the buffer, you're in the street.
So what are the little dots, or when I was looking at the plan, it looked like trees, but what are those all the way along 101?
The circles.
Yes.
Bushes?
Yeah, my understanding is that's probably bushes that would allow for the continued, visibility of the site. Again, that's kind of a voluntary design that's been provided, and I think that the applicant could speak a little bit more to what their plans are as far as landscaping is concerned.
And did you mention questions on ingress, egress should wait for the engineer, is that correct?
I think that he would best be answered
Okay,
them,
I'm
yes.
just curious, like, I don't, like, the large shopping center as a whole, who would control current, exit entry that occurs off of Live Oak? I'm just thinking that one exit point right next to a roundabout seems like a traffic nightmare if anything were to happen to your exit entry points on Live Oak Street.
I believe the town would, no, because that portion of Live Oak's a state street as well. So Live Oak and 101 are both state roads that they would have to get DOT approval for.
Anything further of staff at this time? We can always ask questions later. All right, thank you.
Sure.
And at this time, if the applicant would like to come up and tell us a bit more, or the applicant's representative.
You may or may not know me, but I'm Tommy Simpson. Chances are you do know me. I'll be glad to answer most any questions when it comes to the DOT permits and stuff. Chase Colliper is here to answer those questions if you want any guidance on that. My family has owned this property since 1998. Used to be the Huntley Building Supply property, and we carried on the name for Huntley Plaza. Sim Munn is actually the LLC owner of it. I'm the general manager of the LLC. My partner, Bill Munden, is my other partner along with wives. And the restaurant business has not been quite as successful on that property as we would have liked for it to be. And the gas station on the corner was very successful for many, many, many years. And so our family has decided that that's the path we wanted to go back in. And so with 101 and 70 being torn completely up and everything being a total disaster, we said no better time than now to move forward and see if we can't do this. Being it's a existing property, it would be very little impact on to the environment. But one of the things that we wanted to look at was some beautification and prettying up that side of the building along with the landscaping that's not needed, but we want to do it. And you're asking about circles. The circles are going to plan to be low-rise or medium-rise bushes along that road. It is a limited amount of space in there, but we feel like we can do it. We're also putting a 3-foot island in the middle of the parking lot to separate the gas station from the rest. But one of the biggest things that we wanted a full barrier between the gas station and the existing parking lot. So it'll be a planted island along there too. Be crepe myrtles and grasses, the same thing. You don't like them.
I think they're not allowed as part of our landscaping plan. It has to be.
Okay, well, we'll put something in it that's allowed.
Okay.
I have a garden center, so I think I can find a bush that will work, that you will be approved. I think that we can work those things out. We have the tools to work with. Other things that we looked at, we wanted to make sure that in doing this, that we would be, we've been through the storms, we've been through the hurricanes, and we know the importance of being able to be in business and to keep operating. And so that's one of the reasons why we're putting the backup generator capability there, same way as we've done with the hardware store, so that we can keep in you asked about the above-ground tanks versus below-ground tanks. Above-ground tanks are so much easier to maintain and take care of than something you cannot see. When you bury them, and these tanks are state-approved, double-line, they're the state-of-the-art tanks. If you know me at all, we don't do anything kind of halfway anyway. So if we're going to do this, we're going to do it the best it can be done. And that is our intent. So if I hadn't answered anything you may have, ask away. And if I can't do it, I'll get Chase up here to take care of it for me.
All right. Anyone have questions of the applicant?
If you've been in the 80s, what's the history? Were the tanks removed from the old gas station?
Yes, they've been removed. The test wells are still on site. Matter of fact, some of the test wells are on my property. So one of the test areas in the green space that we're creating out for the sign, you asked about the sign. We're going to repurpose the existing sign because we're going to use the same logos and everything. We just got to bring it into compliance with whatever the new sign ordinance is. And that whole area is going to be kind of like a park area, planted area, and that triangle. Try to pretty up that corner a little bit.
All right. Other questions of the applicant?
I have some. I see you're getting rid of the parking space alongside the building that's on 101 right now because you had a
Yeah,
drive.
the ones that
they had a
parallel
drive-through
to,
there.
yeah, the ones that parallel to 101
Yes.
will go away, and
To
we'll
the
put
building.
diagonals against the building.
So no drive-through then? The drive-through?
No drive-through.
Okay.
No
And then that's a exit-only egress?
Yeah, that is
Okay.
DOT's request, is the exit only.
Okay. Where the generator's gonna go, is that a residence right behind there?
Yes,
Okay.
but during sound
So
enclosures,
you'll have a sound enclosure for it?
well, they'll be in a sound, they're already in a sound
That it's
enclosure.
in already? Okay. And they'll go through the weekly test that they do?
Yeah,
Okay.
and you can set that test at 1 o'clock in the afternoon if you wanted to.
Okay. And then up there by the triangle, you have 6 parking spaces? So
Yes,
that-
sir, they're new places.
That would
yeah.
help keep people from driving off of Live Oak into the area. They'll have to
Yeah.
use your entrances
Yeah,
by the Burger King or by the bank or on 101.
yeah, we'll maintain all the existing entrances and the Lookout Pharmacy, we're going to change their driveway a little bit to access to that, but just very little.
Okay,
Just with striping, that's all it is.
thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. One down here.
So, Tommy, I have a general concern for this, not that it's a gas station, but the 2012 Gateway Master Plan that Michelle had one illustration up, and I don't know if we could pull that up, because there's an illustration in there that is a little bit more of a vision for what that whole intersection, including the circle, was to be, as a gateway, as a main gateway into Beaufort. I know that the town has been or is working on landscape plans and so forth for the center of the circle. But in that plan, there were enhancement zones all the way around the circle. And I'm concerned because what I'm looking at, I don't see where this is going to have a beautification impact to that intersection and to this gateway into Beaufort. And I'm wondering if you or your team had looked at the Gateway Master Plan to see what the vision for this area was.
Now, I don't control the property that the old gas station was on.
I understand.
So I'm starting with my property, and we are proposing to do landscaping to, that's one of the last comments I made, to help enhance that area that does not look pretty at this time, but I can't control what's behind me, and I don't know what that future use will ever be, which is actually the gateway, if you would say, because that particular piece of property is what you will see.
Well, but actually in that Gateway Master Plan, 101 is a gateway corridor.
Right.
And then, it terminates at the from 70 to the circle. So it's that plan has a vision for the entire corridor coming into Beaufort, and then of course at the roundabout. And I just have such a hard time with these things because I'm looking at a plan that shows a shrub 40 feet apart along 101. No idea what it is. A shrub 40 feet apart has zero impact on anything. One of my thoughts also was, do we really, if there is an excess of parking on the site, is there any reason the fuel canopy can't move over one parking bay and eliminate the parking spaces, the angled spaces next to the building to create a wider buffer between the project and 101? I know there's a ton of
I'm
parking
going to
out
answer
there.
one of your questions first. So the drawing that shows a plant every 40 feet was intended to show you that we are voluntarily wanting to do something. That is not a landscape plan. That is saying that we need to realize that we want to do something that has some landscape appeal to it versus the existing poles and stuff that are there now. So that is just an intent to show you that we are planning on doing something. In moving the parking spaces over and taking another 15 spaces out to shift that would be hampering the businesses that are adjacent to that, and that would probably create some more conflict for them, because they would be moving those parking spaces or parking ability more in front of the hardware store than in front of their businesses. We were trying to do this so that it would not impact the existing businesses.
Just, I'm looking at a plan, and, and I know that you own the whole thing, and I go there about 6 times a week
Or more.
or more. So I'm very familiar with it. And, it's, to me, when something new is coming in, we should be paying attention to our approved plans for the town. At this point in the history of the town, we should be paying attention to the visual quality of projects. And I know that there are cost implications to all these things, but we're being asked to approve this plan that I have zero understanding of what the outcome will be in terms of beautification, in terms of architecture. What is the fuel canopy going to look like? What is the you mentioned architectural changes to the side of the building. No idea what that is. It's just very hard for me to support something where we're not paying attention to the town's vision for specific areas of the town. And I actually was the author of that plan, so I'm very familiar with it back in 2012. And so I have a real issue with that. I have an issue with the above-grade tanks. Again, I'm looking at a note that says, I don't know, landscape buffer or something. I have no idea what's in there, how tall the materials are. Are they going to go in large, or is it going to take 6 years to grow?
I have an answer for that question.
Okay. He can answer one of them.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, sorry. Chase Culliford, nice to meet you guys. So obviously we've been following the Minuteman stuff going on, and the intent at this time would be the type A buffer, a 10-foot buffer around those, where it's going to have multiple evergreen trees and an 8-foot opaque fence that will go on both sides as shown there. And then again, I know you're a landscape architect. I'm not. I created this, and it was exactly how Mr. Tommy represented it. It's just the intent to add vegetation and shrubbery. But to Michelle's comment earlier, there is overhead power there, and they have an easement and they have a right, and they do not allow vertical structure in their power easement. And so shrubbery is okay, flat parking is okay. Any sort of tree or vertical structure that gets above anything their vehicle can drive through is not allowed. So the intent is to do our best to add things to help with the beautification of the town, but they're not required. It's all voluntary. And one of the reasons why we can't really scoot some of that canopy over is a big part of the SUP submittal is the traffic flow. And so that's the part that will come up with commissioners, I know. And when we shift that further to the right, plan right, it makes the egress going up a little bit more awkward, where you're turning and you got a little bit of S-turn as opposed to a more straight exit. And so we want to be able to provide as straight of an exit as possible for people who become familiar with the site, towing their boats, et cetera. And so not only does it impact the other businesses there, it has an impact on the safety of the vehicular access.
I'm sorry, I don't understand it. Can you kind of walk me through that again?
Yes, sir. So There's a one-way up by the angled parking that's going to exit north. And so the goal is to align as much of traffic with a straight shot to go up that, as opposed to having to do a hard 90 to the left and then a hard 90 to the right to be able to pull out from that direction, is the intent.
Okay, but I still think it could be worked out.
I mean, it is just green circles. We could add more green circles. But I mean, and that's something that can be a comment with the approval that we can look into further.
I mean, I appreciate the fact that, you know, it's green and you have an intention to do something there, but I have no idea what you're gonna be doing or what the vision for it is. You know, I mean, it's a, it's a long, relatively narrow, you know, piece of grass right now. And I just have no, as a design professional, I'm looking at it and I'm just not seeing it. And, you know, that's just my eyes, because that's how I'm trained. As a planning board member, I'm concerned that we're not focusing on these plans that the town spent a lot of money on, that were adopted by the town, and that we're not really paying attention to them. Honestly, this is not the only one.
Fair. I'm not familiar with the plan that you pulled up earlier. Do you mind going back to that slide?
And I will point out, one of the things that's in our current LDO is a entry corridor overlay district in name. It doesn't have any location on the map, nor does it have any standards. One of the things we were working on in Module 2 for the UDO before it got adjusted was actually fleshing out that entry corridor overlay district and what those standards would look like. So we don't have anything in our ordinance currently to enact these sorts of things. We were working on it, and we got really close. But that is something that we hope to come in the future.
So, Michelle, the image that I'm talking about is a plan. And it's a plan of the circle, and it has a series of green areas. Yeah, there it is right there.
It had the bicycle path had red on
And
it.
these are all
Yep, that one right there.
enhancements.
No, this is a
George-
different plan.
No,
There's two separate plans, Clark.
no, this is actually in the plan itself. That is as well. But can you see what I'm talking about? You see all the green areas? Those are like enhancement zones.
Yes,
And in the plan, it talks about, you know, what should happen in those zones.
Now,
and it does look like, based on that plan, those are more on the corner, at the roundabout, closer in proximity to that former gas station property, which is why I had the trouble with this plan applying it down the road to this subject property.
Well, you're right, it is up closer to the circle. But in the plan, it also talks about the 101 from 70 to the circle as an entry corridor.
I think the best way forward, once we get underway, is to put it into motion in the UDO so that it's something that we can see reflected on these plans.
Michelle, are we approving a site plan tonight?
You are making a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners for the special use permit with site plan, yes.
With site plan,
Yes.
like we did last time?
Yes.
So see, this is the last time we see this. And again, you know, we're making a recommendation to the commissioners who, you know, they do listen to us, actually. And based on something we really don't know about. And that's my problem.
I would hope that one of your recommended considerations be regarding the landscaping plan, and I'm sure the commissioners would want to take a look at that as well.
Okay.
Can I clarify something just real quick, Michelle? So if this is approved, this would be the last time, as a redevelopment of an existing property, this is the last time this board would see anything to do with it?
Yes.
Okay, just want to confirm that.
Can you talk about the architectural enhancements you mentioned, Tommy, or one of you?
We actually did have some renderings, but they're in negotiations with the actual fuel supplier, and since that contract is contingent upon this approval, we didn't want to have that branding put out because it's not set in stone.
Can understand that.
But it's not gaudy, colors are pleasant, it's not bright yellow and red.
Would it look out of place in this neighborhood? Or in the historic district, or on Cedar Street?
Trying to visualize it.
But that's just something to think
Historic
about.
district would not fit into it.
But his
within my
point,
shopping center or on Cedar Street, it would look like the norm.
his point is well taken, because one of the findings of fact is about how does it fit into a particular, area. So it's a point well taken. What about enhancements to the actual building, the existing building?
Yeah, we're planning on doing, that side of the building has a lot of electrical service. That's the main feed into it. So we were looking at doing a screening, but you're limited to so much you can actually do in front of those electrical meters. You have to keep clearance for them. So that's one of the things that we were all talking about into the final result. Today, it will remain as it is. If we do this, we will be enhancing it.
I mean,
Yeah.
because one option or one thing that can be done if you were to take those angled parking spaces away is you could create a landscape along the edge of the building that would help it dramatically and not interfere with electrical.
True, you could do that. There are grease traps, water meters, RPZs and everything along that line. They're in the ground. But there is some spacing that something could be done. But if you went there and looked at it, you would see that it would be very limited because of all the underground utilities that are right along that sidewalk. It is completely full of stuff that won't be relocated.
Okay, and then what about lighting? The last one that we saw last month had some very, very specific lighting that we looked at, that if you listened to the commissioners' meeting, they spent a lot of time on it, but that was because there was residential right behind it. What is going to be done here with lighting?
The intent, the intent is to kind of respect the dark sky idea of the lighting. There is existing area lights in the area, and there's existing area lights at the beginning and ending of the sidewalk along 101. And so the plan is to connect the sidewalk there, so there will be some of that safety lighting that's existing along 101. And there's lights in the parking lot as well, but the lighting on the canopy is controllable, and we've talked about with the potential vendor, keeping that stuff to a safe minimum throughout the, later in the evening. I think the range is 0.1 to 0.5 candle feet, and so they're in agreement to make sure that is matches kind of what the discussion was on the previous gas station.
Okay, I feel like I'm taking the whole thing up, so I'll let
It's fine.
Defer to other questions.
All right, Vic?
Okay, so Tommy, I agree with you. What you do generally looks great. No problem with that. We have a lot of less than pretty shopping centers around in Beaufort, and we're currently working on the new land development ordinance where we hope to be able to capture a better aesthetic along the streets. I do agree with George that this is an entry corridor. You're coming in 101 or you're coming in 70. Personally, I guess I feel like this is a new application, it's a new business, and there is a lot of less than defined points on here. We know from the last application last month that the commissioners insisted on a lighting plan because there are residences across the street and people are gonna complain. It feels to me like maybe we should have some kind of a lighting plan. I agree again with George on the Greenway. We have grass strips in front of shopping centers and they have ditches in them and they're not very pretty. And it seems to me that this key piece of property being redeveloped, when everything is already torn up, you're absolutely right, it's a mess. This is a chance to get a little more shrubbery, a little more buffer from the street to the driveway. On the one-way road I'm looking at on the plan, it shows that your one-way aisle is 29 feet long. I guess that would be at the western end. It doesn't need to be that wide, and perhaps that would allow for a wider buffer to the street.
Sorry, I just wanted to look at what you're saying.
Yeah, there. And all the way up at the top of the building, let's call that the top, the high end, there's a dimension across the road, the one-way road, and it says 29 feet. I don't know that you need 29 feet for an aisleway, and there's a chance, as I would see it, to put more greenery in there and buffer the entire site from Highway 101.
I'm not going to speak on Tommy's behalf, but there is a minimum width that exceeds as far as that 29-foot width. And we were trying to give a little bit of extra maneuverability due to the fuel delivery trucks being able to come in.
Right.
And so they, where a 12 or 13 or 14 foot, whatever one-way drive aisle minimum width would be for the town of Beaufort is a little tight for a delivery truck. And what we were trying to represent is if this were a new project, it would have the required 8-foot grass strip.
Right.
So we were trying to just voluntarily add some stuff to it. So that's where I started, was with the 8-foot. And so we were referencing the town's ordinance of what would be required, and then voluntarily applying that to these plans, but then still kind of optimize just functionality of the site.
Right.
Now, if Mr. Tommy wants to be willing to change something up, that's his decision.
So I guess my general comment would be, I'd like to see more buffering up Highway 101. You are allowed to put bushes and the trees, I think up to 15 feet under the power lines or just alongside the power lines. I used to know.
I would disagree professionally.
Okay.
It has to be outside the easement to be that tall.
And I agree with George that the landscape plan is very vague. It says we're gonna make this green, but that's all that it says. This is a special use permit. We can put guidelines on it as we see fit. Seems to me I'd like to see a better landscape plan so we know what it is that's getting done. And I would also take that same comment and go up to the fuel tanks, and we're putting above-ground fuel tanks right on our major corridor. I guess that's the east end of the fuel tanks will be visible from the entire site. It seems to me they should be underground fuel tanks, just to make the site more attractive, and I understand it's more expensive.
It's not the expense, it is the, and to that particular instance. It is about the fact that you can actually see, you can maintain and take care of these tanks above ground, and it's not nearly as much of a issue that you worry about anything ever happening, because you actually can see and take care and maintain everything.
It's considered a better environmental option.
Yeah.
I mean, we just buried tanks in downtown Beaufort.
Oh, yeah. Right on the parking lot. I think I know who did it. We're quite aware of how to do it
Right.
and what to do. But along that main drainage easement back canal, we looked at what is the best option. And professionally, for somebody that does it, I'm looking at it, best option is above ground, where you're not got a conflict with main drainage canals and everything else going on. And so that's why we're using the above ground tanks. Now, I will make the comment about the landscaping. It wasn't required, so we didn't spend the time in the issue on the design. We were told it's not required.
Well, it's not
No.
required for a site plan.
Yeah, but that's what we were presented a set of guidelines to go by. The guideline said there was no requirement. We're the ones that said we do. And George, I'll be glad to work with you to make it as pretty as possible. I mean, and I know that you have the expertise and know the plants and everything, and I can get the plants. And we can put that as a condition to make it prettier, but we weren't prepared for this comment, because it wasn't told that we were going to have to be addressing this. We were told it's not required. So it's not like we came in here with our pants down because of this. It's because of the rules. So you're asking me to do something, I don't mind it. And I'll work with you personally to make sure that we give something, because I want it to look, it's my property. I'm not the other developers or in stuff in town. I want it to look nice. And so we will be glad to work with you, but I do have to get that fuel truck in there. And I need room to do it. But if we can squeeze and open something up a little bit and create some more space, I will tell you that there's some area lights that are there that will be going away, because they're on poles, and those poles are going to be moved. So some of the poles that are shown, or you may see, and to see that if you are out there looking, are going to go away, because we're taking them out, because we don't need those lights shining back on the building. So we're going to enhance the lighting. The canopy will take care of it. The rest of the parking lot is down light, is black light, is LED blue light, which is very, I mean, it just is a glow. It isn't anything more than just a glow. The building does not have lights onto it unless they're under the canopy and down lights. And we'll probably put nothing but canopy lights or face lights on the building. We're seeing this as an opportunity to take advantage and enhance at the same time, and take the old shopping center and lift it up a little bit better, because the whole facade on that end of the building will change. It won't be a little jut out onto it. It'll be more storefront looking. It'll be very pretty. We're not going to put something at this point and let it be an eyesore. We're going to try to make it better. I wish I had control of the corner where your open green space is showing. Maybe we can get with Mr. Holmes that owns that property, and he'd be willing to do some green space. But that is the reason why we went and moved the sign forward and did show taking asphalt up and making it pervious to make it prettier on that corner and give it a better looking entrance into the shopping center. So when it comes to the pretty side, we're in agreement with you. It just wasn't told that we had to bring a plan to you that you would approve today. And so we're kind of caught off guard in that sense because we weren't told that we needed a plan.
Michelle, can I ask you, I hate to put you in a hot spot. So isn't this a new business and a new site plan? Or is it a renovation of an existing building? And how does special use permit tie into that?
So we do have landscaping plans. We have a section that discusses the applicability of that. And then the section directly following that for exemptions, following or exempt from the subsection, sub C says expansions of less than 15% of the ISR, the impervious surface ratio, are exempt. So because we're not increasing the impervious coverage of the property, it's triggering that exemption for the landscaping plan.
This is seen as a small piece of a big property.
Right. Right, okay, thank you.
I have one question and one comment. The question is, I guess this would be for Chase. I was just looking at Street View, and the power lines with primary seem to end just south of your exit-only entrance. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the power lines down the way look like they're just, the purpose is just for lighting for your property?
Yeah, the existing poles.
Those wooden poles?
The wooden
Yeah.
poles are.
And you're saying those would go away? They would go away, okay.
And one of them is a service pole to.
There's
And one of them is a
guide
service pole to the sign.
pole. Okay, the sign.
Sign. So that pole won't be needed because the sign's being moved.
Okay, so
that-
all of those little poles would go away?
The little poles go away.
Okay, so there's no overhead obstructions for much of that, it's just the barrier is the
In that
overall width?
area, no, sir.
Okay, that's the question. And the comment is, if I'm walking my dog down the sidewalk to go to the hardware store, as I often do, there's really no path from the sidewalk to the hardware store. I'd have to cut across the grass there. So I would suggest adding a bit so that people can get from the sidewalk to your businesses.
Oh, across the frontage?
Across, yeah. I
Kind
mean,
of in
just,
line with the front of the building.
yeah, I would say, picture somebody walking down the sidewalk who wants to go to your business, and
We don't want to hamper anybody from getting to our business.
that's what I think. So, but just, and then I have a lot of other things to talk about with the board here, but I think that's all the questions I have. Okay. Anyone else have questions? Oh,
Yes, if,
Go ahead.
so my understanding with special uses, stipulations can be put in place, and generalized stipulations on this idea.
Yes, conditions can be recommended that would bring it into, if we have something on our required findings that it's not quite meeting and we can add a condition that'll bring it into compliance with that requirement, that's where those come into play.
Okay. My questions are more in line of the fuel itself. I noticed there's you have 4 what you call fuel dispensers.
Yes,
Being
sir.
a total of 8 pumps.
Correct.
Basically. Is it diesel and gasoline?
Yes, it'd be a mix, and I believe there'd be non-ethanol included as well.
Okay, because you referenced the boats and all too, so I figured that was coming.
Yes, sir.
So if I'm understanding correctly, it's off the 101, there's the entrance exit, but then further down on the backside of what the business would be by the fuel pumps is the exit only.
Yes, sir, that's
Reasons
correct.
being A, for fuel delivery, and for boats, trailers, exiting accessibility.
And it was a recommendation from DOT because they don't like
Yeah.
so many two-way entries and ingress so close to each
Yeah,
other.
no, I understand. What is the size of the tanks that you're looking for?
They're 12,000 gallons, and I believe there's,
Each?
yes, sir, and there's
Okay.
dimensions on the plan in the top right corner, I believe it's, they're 32 foot long by 8 foot 6 inch diameter, which is why we're trying to have such a tall buffer.
Is it 18 just under 19 feet off the back of the buildings, the separation?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. That,
And-
go ahead.
So the distances, they're from the fire code for above-ground storage tanks, and there's minimum separation requirements from right-of-ways, buildings, other tanks, there's a long list of them.
It's
But
15 feet would be that one.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Oh, I'm aware. My biggest concern, I guess I have personally, would be, yes, if we pulled up all the utilities underground, all of that, probably put in the tanks underground over there is not even, I would venture to say feasible. Expenses wise, yes, it is cheaper to put something on top of the surface rather than underneath. Maintenance, yes, you can see it versus not. I would make a recommendation that there has to be a secondary retention around the tanks. You're looking at 24,000 gallons of diesel and gas. You're talking about a lot of potential there. We do get weather. We do have salt air. That is easy to maintain above ground, but at the same time, it is exposing you to weather elements that aren't generally available underground. But also too, like bollards, some kind of stopping point from,
I think both of those are doable requests.
I think they have, I'm not gonna say they have to be put in place, but I think they're a very strong, idea for
Understood.
safety features.
Yeah.
Are the tanks fiberglass or steel? Double line, so they're sort of a tank within a tank, like similar to the ones that would be buried in the ground? Okay. And they're 8 feet in diameter, but how high off the ground would the top of the tank be? How far off the ground do they sit?
I mean, they come up a little bit because there's a concrete cradle, but it's not a large amount.
Couple
but I
feet.
don't know off the top of my head. I mean, it's a couple feet maybe top.
Okay. All right. Did you have a question?
Great points, and I'm still back on the public safety, which is very, very valuable in terms of the tanks and not my expertise, so thanks for bringing that up. I'm reading here on your application in item D, it says that you've consulted with DOT, however, it also mentions that their requirements will be in the final design. Is the exit the only recommendation they're making, or can you give a little more depth to what would be included in the final design there?
I mean, we were concerned if there would be roadway improvements internal to the right-of-way. So if they were going to have road widening, left turn lanes, right turn lanes. And our original design had two-way ingress egress at both locations. And when they reviewed the plan, without an official application, just kind of out of kindness, they said, well, you might would have to have a turn lane if it stays like this, because we don't like these two entrances and exits being so close. So if you make this one an exit only, then those improvements won't be necessary, which is kind of a good thing in my mind, just because of all the road work that's occurring now in the traffic circle. There's a lot of traffic pattern changes that's going to be coming in the future. And so keeping some simplicity, it was kind of something we were trying to achieve.
Okay, but there's nothing like glaringly obvious in the incorporating applicable requirements that we're missing here other than that exit?
No, ma'am, but that is simply that they reserve the right to make additional comments later when we do an official application, assuming this were to get approved.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any additional questions of the applicant, or we have discussion?
I'm sorry, can you explain, I'm sorry, can you explain again why additional stormwater is not required?
Yes. And so the Town of Beaufort, so there's two things at play. There's the state rules. And we do not cross any threshold there that requires any sort of state, because this is grandfathered in. It's been built for probably before the stormwater rules came into play in 1988, if I had to guess. And to this date now, you would be able to allow up to 10,000 square foot of additional impervious without triggering a required stormwater permit, as long as there's not other permits tied to that, such as an erosion control permit or a CAMA or a major or whatever. So none of those things applied. So we weren't responsible for doing DEQ. in coordinating with staff, we had a TRC meeting, and there's requirements for, I think you understand what I mean when I say pre-post stormwater. And so the town has a pre-post requirement. And by virtue of this being a long-standing site, by reducing the impervious and adding those landscape islands and landscape areas, the net decrease in impervious area made us exempt from those stormwater requirements.
So even a new business doesn't have to comply with new rules?
Correct.
That's most likely because of the few changes that are being made. It doesn't require, because it's not switching business types and the change amounts that are being made.
Town Engineer Sam Bell is here tonight if you have specific questions about the town's requirements.
I wouldn't mind just hearing, just from my own edification. Hey, Sam?
Hey, George. Hey, board. So, I don't have them right here printed out in front of me, but as I recall it, yes, it's the impervious that drives a lot of our town stormwater requirements, as well as the amount of disturbed area. So anything that's disturbing less than an acre would not trigger any state or local stormwater requirements. And then, the impervious area, if they were adding impervious, then there might be some additional requirements, but since they're removing it, it's not required.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any gas station-specific requirements that this triggers environmentally?
No gas station specific requirements currently in the ordinance.
Or in state
In
regulations?
state, no. The only state requirements would be related to, distance to high-quality waters, which, regardless of business type, it might be required to put in sand filters, things like that. But since those don't apply here, it doesn't trigger those particular rules.
Okay,
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks.
thank you.
I just want, just for the record, someone, I don't know if it was Tommy or not, but mentioned an 8-foot fence around the tanks, but that is not on the plan.
Right, we discussed that before this meeting, after seeing y'all's deliberations and the commissioner's deliberations with the Minuteman. And so we knew we wanted to put a buffer there, and that is something I plan on adjusting and addressing with any other particular recommendations you guys before we go to commissioners. But the intent is to have a 10-foot type A. I think it's 6 small evergreens or medium evergreens and 4 large evergreens per 100 foot with a 6-foot opaque fence, but we were going to go up to 8 foot just to add that actual visual block.
So there is one.
The intent is to have one. It just wasn't on the plan by the time we submitted to Michelle.
We would probably want to make it a condition of any motion.
At the, at the above ground fuel tanks, nowhere else.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I know it's difficult to prepare for a special use because, the board could just say it has to be pink. We can kind of make up anything we want as long as it makes it compatible and in harmony with adjoining land uses. So I think we're at the point where we start talking about this and what, if people want to see it, and if so, what sort of conditions they may want to put on this, and do we all agree with those conditions? So,
Keep looking down this way.
yeah, I was trying to figure out where to start.
Which end are we starting at?
And I know I have some conditions, but I will wait on mine because I suspect they are the same as others. Well, then why don't we start down? Tammy?
I think I fully align with fellow member here in terms of his recommendation.
Microphone,
Tank. Sorry, I agree with my fellow member here in terms of the secondary tank, the secondary retention pond request. I think that should definitely be something we put in recommendations.
Okay.
Mine, I was trying to find the building or the fire code to get the exact feet for distance from the building. I believe y'all are well within that number, so that's fine. My recommendation is that there be some kind of concrete retention barrier just for fuel.
Under the tanks?
Yeah, just around the tanks, just for containment if needed. And then based on working with the fire marshal and the fire code as far as the distances, I believe that's all good, but just basically some kind of concrete confinement for any fuel leakage.
All right.
For reference, the fire marshal does review these plans before they come to the planning board.
And is that within our rights to suggest some sort of fuel retention scheme in case of a spill, or I don't know where the boundary is on.
You certainly could suggest it or recommend it. I don't know that that condition is bringing the application into line with the required findings.
Oh,
which
okay.
is-
It would probably, yeah.
That's
So-
right. So, your conditions have to really be geared toward a failure or questionable failure to meet the conditions set forth in the ordinance.
Yeah, and yeah, the required findings be the key component of that.
So
when
would
you-
that
when you-
not fall under EG in terms of endangering public health or safety?
Yeah,
Arguably,
Yeah.
it's a pretty amorphous standard, though.
so you could say, in the interests of the public health, I would recommend that.
All right.
Hopefully someone's keeping track of these.
I've been writing them down. Yeah, same as everyone was saying, I don't know if we can add, once we do have a motion put, that we approve this up with detailed landscaping and lighting plans, such as what the board brought up
So
to the Minutemen people.
A lighting
Yeah, landscaping
a
and
lighting plan and a landscaping plan.
And with the fencing at the tanks. And then he brought up the retention.
Okay. And
Can I question, Clark? So if we ask for a landscaping plan and a lighting plan, we are never
We're
going to
not gonna see it. No, the board will see
Is
it.
that-
It'll go to the board.
we would require that they provide it to the board for their.
this board
No,
or
to the Board of
Board of
Commissioners
Commissioners.
for their
and
consideration.
let them review it?
We'll have it worded in our recommendations for the board.
Okay.
Before I go to you, I have an idea because I think you're going to touch on this. And the idea is, while there is, along 101, it's questionable how much room there is, you move things. There's certainly plenty of parking spaces that could be converted to planted islands and be made plenty big enough for interior shade trees along there. That was going to be my idea, is that instead of getting rid of all those diagonal parking spaces along the building, perhaps convert one of them to a planted area, and maybe a few other spots in the larger area of the parking lot, convert that as well. As a feasible, you can fit pretty big trees in the middle of that parking lot because there's nothing overhead. And that might be while not shielding it from the highway, given enough time, it might be an avenue. So with that, I'll go to your deferred.
Well, so I guess there are two options in my mind. As it relates to a motion. One would be to defer the item and ask them to come back with certain considerations. The other would be to make a motion of either recommendation or denial to the commissioners with certain conditions. Because what you just said is that, you know, if we say go forth and plant, we're never going to see it. We don't really know, and there aren't requirements. That's the problem. My motion, and y'all have to correct me on how to make this motion so that they're in conformance with the required findings. And I'm specifically talking about item C, E, and G. I would make a motion to defer the item 1 month,
Table.
or table it
Table is what.
1 month, based on the following. Provide additional information on landscape along 101. Consider shifting the station canopy about 18 feet toward the shopping center to create a larger landscape buffer to 101. To consider eliminating the angled parking along the building to create either more buffer along 101 or to better buffer the building, the existing building. I would include as number 5, the secondary consideration of secondary detention. I couldn't really hear exactly what you were saying, so is that what you were talking about? An actual detention pond?
No, just like a concrete
I got you,
containment.
okay, containment,
Yeah, just
Got
a
you.
secondary containment for the system.
okay. So, and to provide additional landscape information on the area that was pointed out as a park-type area. I can't remember exactly what that was. So that would be my motion. Is that appropriate?
Yes, but I would ask that we hear from Vic first, because I think it would only be fair, whether we table it or vote on it, it would only be fair to the applicant to hear all the comments. And then I think once we've heard from Vic and myself, then we can decide on whether we want to, in what way we would like to proceed.
So I guess my first comment is I fall back on the above-ground tanks. I mean, we have another new gas station coming in, and they're not having above-ground tanks, and that has no legal bearing on this. But since this is such a high visible site, the idea of seeing these tanks above ground, I struggle with that. And yes, you can build an 8-foot or a 10-foot fence around them. McDonald's has 8-foot fences around their dumpsters. That certainly doesn't make them attractive. So I struggle with that. I struggle with the lack of information on the landscaping. If we just recommend that they bring a plan to the commissioners, somebody needs to determine what's an appropriate amount of landscaping. It is a new business. I understand the technicality of the 15%. I sure would like to see what that end unit is going to look like when it becomes a store. What colors, what shapes, what architectural detailing. I'm pretty sure the commissioners are going to look for a lighting plan. there's a lot of undefined things on there that I'm not quite so comfortable just passing it on and say, somebody else needs to review the plan.
All right. As I lose my things, I think most of the things I was going to talk about have been brought up.
It's nice to be last.
It is. It is. And brought up well. Yeah, because this is a special use permit, it's kind of a weird thing, but I too would like to see elevations, even if they have brands obscured and parts of it obfuscated, so it's not obvious who the tenant may be if there are issues relating to that. I heard from the applicant that there is going to be a barrier between the greater parking lot and where the fuel pumps are, which hopefully it's more than just a curb.
It's 3 feet.
It's what?
3 feet.
3 feet, okay, good, because speaking as someone who had my car totaled in the CQ parking lot while I was inside, parking lots can be dangerous. But I think other than that, I think landscaping, while it isn't required to meet our landscaping ordinance because of that, we can certainly take parts of our landscape ordinance, such as all vegetation must be native, and we can ask that it is applied as much as possible to this. I see the difficulties with the proximity to 101. And having large areas of landscaping, but given the vast swaths of asphalt to the east, and to the south, there's plenty of alternate room to convert several parking spaces to large planting areas that would support large shade trees that would, in the future, make it a much more attractive site. Yeah, so I had the same thought. In terms of whether it would be better to give these ideas to the applicant and table it and ask them to come back next month, or give these ideas to the applicant and ask them to take them to the Board of Commissioners, I would defer to the majority of the board here and what you think is neat. I mean, in general, I think this is a good place for a gas station, and will serve the town well as long as we can get the details right.
May I ask Ari to explain how information from this board gets transmitted to the commissioners?
Generally, in the staff report and the commissioner's agenda. I mean, that's the primary way. We had a dialogue via email. The minutes will not be part of that. The minutes of this board will not be part of that, simply because the minutes won't be approved by the time the commissioners meet.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is that as I said, even just in our minutes at the beginning of the meeting, all this discussion, gets narrowed down to about 2 lines, and I don't, and actually, Ari, I think maybe you explained to me that the commissioners, there's some restriction on what information the commissioners can use from us. Is that true?
That's correct, and there's, the final decision on the special use permit at the Board of Commissioners level is a quasi-judicial proceeding. And that is basically a mini court trial, if you will. And the board is confined to the evidence that's presented in that hearing. The general statutes provide a mechanism for, I will say, accepting or considering the recommendations of this board, but at the end of the day, the Board of Commissioners has to make their own independent judgment. They can't rest their judgment on a recommendation. And I know that sounds hyper-technical, but if your recommendation is approve only with the landscape plan, and you can relate it back to the required findings, the Board of Commissioners separately has to reach that conclusion. They just can't say, yeah, whatever the planning board says. So it's very different than how we are accustomed to operating in your typical legislative decision-making process.
Thank you.
All right. So our minutes won't be approved until after the board gets this to them.
That's correct.
So really,
Generally
nothing here will go as evidence for the meeting?
And I'll ask Michelle to jump in if I'm incorrect, but I think the actual action that you take tonight goes in the staff report to the Board of Commissioners, as in the motion itself. Is that correct,
Provided
Michelle?
verbatim,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
Okay.
and on that note, for both the Board of Commissioners and in fairness to the applicant, the recommendations need to be very specific. And if the recommendations are not actually in the board action, then, you know, I don't think it's really a recommendation just because it's in the discussion of this board, if that makes sense. You need to embody what you expect a recommendation or recommend in the actual motion that gets made.
Mr. Chairman, so it seems to me that we need to decide if we're going to table this and ask it to come back here, or if we're going to recommend it to the commissioners. That seems to be the first decision. And then if we recommend it to the commissioners, we should decide what that motion is going to be.
If we're going to table it, though, I think we would want to have the same recommendations. They'll come back to us.
I would think so.
So I'm thinking we can work on all the recommendations first and then
Okay.
decide whether we're gonna say yes or table it. That
Okay.
way,
right.
either way, we're gonna want the same recommendations.
Right, and
So-
then I'll just throw in my view of a broader picture. The commissioners have established the planning board to do the preliminary reviews so that the things that get to them are quite resolved and defined, and they don't have to spend all the time on deliberation. The last commissioners meeting, they spent an hour and a half on the gas station. And there were no questions about landscaping and, light, well, but anyway. So maybe it's really partly our responsibility to do the review. But that's just my personal opinion.
No, you're right. There's a threshold between us making sure all the, things are taken care of and trusting to the commissioners that they'll work it out. And I think, we have to establish at what point, how much of the burden do we want to put on them and how much do we want to take upon ourselves?
Right.
So why don't I'm going to go through the list of recommendations here to see if we can come to some consensus on these one at a time. And I think the first one, do you want to read it? So I'll try for something and then you can correct me if I'm wrong. In the interests of the public health, a retention structure should be provided to guard against unexpected release of fuel spills from the tanks, something like that? Or you can.
Basically just a concrete secondary retention for any fuel release
From under the tanks.
from the tanks. You could make it 4 feet high and it would be more than sufficient for,
To be, I guess we could say something like to be, or is there one? Is there a state code? To be
there's,
agreeable to the town engineer?
the code's gonna be as ambiguous as the things we're looking at. So a 4 foot high concrete retention. Secondary containment would be around the tanks would probably be suffice for this. Um, The wording of it
Okay.
is going to be the.
So I'll try that again. In the interest of the public health, a 4-foot tall containment pond will be provided around the tank, around the fuel tanks?
You'd have to, just secondary containment.
Secondary
Yeah.
containment, okay.
And do we know that it needs to be 4 feet tall? That should be engineered based on the volume of the tanks, I assume.
Yeah, that's
Or
why, I'm-
Of a height suitable to contain the fuel
yeah.
instead of 4 feet. All right. Instead of doing votes, we'll just say anyone opposed? Okay, so we got retention taken care of. There was a mention of a fence that wasn't on the plans, but should be, I think, is everyone okay with an 8-foot fence around the tanks to hide them from the highway and from the neighboring residents?
This all assumes that we're okay with.
Right, it
above
assumes
ground
we're
tanks.
okay with above-ground tanks, right. And I guess we should say, should the tanks be above ground? And I think that's probably the type of decision that would be left up to the commissioners. I mean, or
If they
Or
show,
not?
if the applicant brings a better drawing for them as to what it
How it would
looks
look.
like. How they're.
But it's not fair if we're going to turn it down anyway, so we should decide now if we're going to accept or not accept it, or push it to the commissioners.
Right, well, we haven't talked about turning it down flat,
Right.
outright. So I don't know, I don't get the sense that there's anybody here who just wants to vote no. So I think the two options we're looking at is table with conditions and approve with conditions. So either way,
Yes.
the conditions are the same,
Yes, but we're talking about the tank,
the tank.
right?
Right, so, right, I mean, does somebody want to make would you require them to make use a buried tank?
I would, yes.
Anyone else require them to make
I'm fine with above ground.
I would certainly prefer it, and if I were commissioner, I would vote for below-ground tanks, but I think that is a decision I would defer. I think they are capable of making that decision, and would be fully informed on that. So,
I would align to that being a commissioner decision.
oh, what?
I would align to that being a commissioner
Commissioner's
decision.
decision, okay.
Okay.
So should the tank be above ground, it'll have a retention, a secondary retention thing. All right, but we did talk about, should the tank be above ground, it will have a 8-foot fence to hide it from the highway and from adjoining residents
3 sides.
on 3 sides? Okay, everybody in favor of that?
Honestly, it should be 4 sides because as you're exiting
You're looking right at it.
the gas station, going to the exit only, you're looking right down the barrel at it.
But I don't know if there's access requirements for,
It can, have gates.
it could be not screened on the side that faces the building itself. There's one side that no one's gonna see. So 3 side.
And is the fence separate from the landscaping in addition to the fence?
I think the fence would be part of the,
I think it should be both.
because you don't want 2 fences.
No, so are we looking for a 10-foot fence and some buffering landscaping?
in
Is
addition
that
to-
all one piece?
No,
or are
I
we
think
gonna-
in
Yes.
addition to the
'Cause 8-foot
type
fences
A
are
landscaping.
Okay.
Type A landscaping, all right.
Can you recap that one?
Yeah, let me try that again. Should the tank be situated above ground, it will be surrounded on 3 sides by an 8-foot fence in addition to the rest of the required type A buffer landscaping. Got that? All right, so that's the fence. Do we want to say something about providing elevations of what the building itself will look like? So,
I would say yes.
is everyone generally it sounds like they have them, they just didn't want to reveal some corporate stuff, so.
There's no reason we can't see them and they leave the brand off.
So how about we have the requirement that elevations shall be provided and they may obscure the final client if necessary.
Brand, yeah.
The branding if necessary, all right?
Sorry, you're making the recommendation for elevation, so.
So pictures of, yeah, elevations of what the buildings are gonna look like, which,
Buildings and a canopy.
in the can, yeah. Which I think they said they already have. But they didn't want to release it due for client confidentiality purposes, so they may have to.
And is a thought that the renderings would fall under 1C?
I think they would fall under F, the compatible and in harmony with
F,
adjoining
okay.
land uses.
Okay.
And development patterns in the immediate area, to see what it's gonna look like. But it probably would also fall under, location and the character of use will be in conformity with comprehensive and CAM land use plans and other planning elements, the entryway. So, all right, so everyone in favor of that one?
Yes.
Okay, so we got elevations. And then, before I get to landscaping, which is gonna be tricky, I think, any other ones that I missed?
Lighting plans?
Yeah, a lighting plan shall be provided.
Lighting plan and fixtures.
With fixtures. Lighting plan with fixtures shall be provided.
Whatever that same terminology was the board used, Board of Commissioners used, that they wanted for Minuteman to come back.
They wanted a
The Board of
professional,
Commissioners said they wanted a professional lighting engineer plans for the Minuteman. So just the same for this one.
yeah.
I don't know that that would apply to here if they're using existing lighting. They're adding
That
some
had the
lighting.
fixtures and the,
Yeah, we can
yeah.
get fixtures.
yeah.
I mean, I think it would be enough just, I mean, I don't know. To me, it seems like it would be enough to know how much light is gonna escape the property. We don't really need to know how much light's gonna be in the middle of the parking lot from the
It's a
existing
foot,
light.
it's a foot candle study.
But how much light will escape the property? There is a house across the street, a residential house. Okay.
Lighting
Landscaping.
And a more detailed, enhanced landscaping plan. How's that for vague?
Yeah, certainly a more detailed landscaping plan, but I think it would be good to provide some guidance that is, that meets the regulations for our current landscaping ordinance regarding the types of plants to be installed. It's part of it. And allows for the installation of large shade trees within the interior of the parking lot. Is something else.
Part of the reason for perimeter landscaping is to buffer large areas of large paved areas and cars that are parked along it and so forth. So I don't know how we would describe that, but, you know,
I just worry
3
that-
shrubs every
Yeah.
30 feet isn't gonna cut it.
I just worry about on the edge, shrubs in general. If it's just a strip of grass with a line of shrubs down the middle, and it's nice and all, but
Better than nothing.
it's better. And I have, confidence in the applicant, given some direction, will come up with something. I imagine he probably gets a good price on landscaping. But I don't know how to direct, and how to put that in terms of a direction. That isn't too, doesn't require redesigning the entire site.
Would you state what you said previously on landscaping?
Would I say it perfect?
Yeah, what did you just say?
All right, well, I'll try to, tell me if I make any changes here. That it would meet the current landscaping ordinance regarding the types of materials to be installed. That interior planting areas would be provided suitable for the planting of large shade trees. I don't know how to specify how many, but I would say
Right.
at least 4 of them. I think that was as far as we got.
That works for me.
Okay.
Well, I would say that that the perimeter landscape should provide adequate buffering of cars and large paved areas.
Yeah. Could I add, to the extent allowed by the NCDOT?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
It's the fire company that has the.
Or the power, or, yeah, by the, I mean, they can only do, there's some things they can't do because of the constraints of right-of-ways and,
Well, I assume this would be on their property.
but I think even on your, if you're that close to the highway,
I mean, I don't think,
They could bring in the details as to what the
right,
Duke Power specific
Right.
requirement is.
what the specific, right, why they can't put trees there. And maybe they can, maybe between, maybe there is some portion there that doesn't, fall under all the,
I'm not even talking about trees, I'm
Setbacks.
talking about shrub masses that adequately buffer cars and large areas of, large paved areas. I don't know what our commercial parking lot requirements are as far as landscape is concerned, but that's what I'm talking about. Now, I don't know who decides on what's adequate.
that's the hard part.
I would think DOT would have some say in terms of not impeding visibility.
Yeah, you have to live with view corridors, but
I think the applicant has heard our discussion in great detail. Maybe the more broad general statement that you suggested works fine, and
We'll see what they come up with.
see what they come up with.
Okay, so I think we have our conditions.
now, are we talking about tabling?
Well, that's our next thing to talk about. So,
Ari, if I'm not mistaken, George made a motion earlier, so if we need to rescind his motion and make a new one or amend his motion, I just wanted to, if that is still on the floor.
was that actually a motion, or was that a request to
I
talk about
was,
that?
I think I was kind of explaining what a motion might look like, so,
Okay, so that, you weren't trying to make a motion there. Okay, good, just wanted to clarify.
So to the extent it was a motion, you're withdrawing it.
yes.
Thank you.
All right. So I think everyone is happy with the conditions that we've talked about. Now, discussion on tabling this and asking them to bring it back with those, or versus sending it on to the commissioners. I don't know, we'll start down here and see what you
I
think.
think I would vote to table.
To table, okay.
Table.
Since the commissioners had the final say on it, I would say send it to the commissioners. Because we don't have the final say on it.
I'm in agreement that we make some strong recommendations to the commissioners and send it to them that they come with more detailed plans, in all fairness to the applicant.
We're only talking about a month. I mean, we need to get this right, and a month isn't going to make a big difference. And
But
by tabling it, we will see what they come back with, and then we can then formalize a final motion to the commissioners.
I'm aligned with the folks saying not to table.
Not to table.
Correct.
Okay.
I think we've
So-
been given very good recommendations here that the Board of Commissioners is quite capable of deciding on.
how I took this tonight, Michelle, was this is voluntary that they're putting the landscaping in along 101 because they're exempt. from having to put that?
They're not, they are exempt from having to provide a landscaping plan, so anything that they're showing is voluntary.
Right.
But as part of the special use, we can require,
We could
we could
add
require
that
them
to
to
it.
put in a water slide and swings.
Right. And then it's up to the commissioner.
Then it's up to the
Who
commissioners
has
to.
final say-so on it.
But
Yeah.
what are we really going to accomplish in a month that we haven't accomplished and discussed tonight? Because again, we are making a recommendation. We're not the final decision maker here.
Mr. Chairman, can I jump in?
Certainly.
In this board's capacity as being an advisory role, you need to send the cleanest decision possible you can to the Board of Commissioners. The recommendations tonight are extensive, and I think the board would appreciate the applicant and this board refining those and getting as clean a product as possible to forward to the Board of Commissioners. This is a lot to digest. This board is the subject matter experts on this topic, so my legal opinion to you would be to table it and get it as right as you can before you send it to the Board of Commissioners. Realize I don't get a vote, and there might be 3 votes going a certain way, but that's my legal input.
Yeah. So I trust the commissioners, but I think that by tabling it, we would see what they come back with. So if we just push it on to the commissioners, then we don't know what the applicant's going to come up with. You know, it gives us the opportunity to vet what their response is. As much as I always kind of hurts me a little inside that it is going to just delay it for a month to, but for something of this much consequence to the town, I would prefer to table it and get this right when we get to the commissioners. They have a lot on their plate, and I think, like was mentioned, the more narrowed down and detailed we can get it, I think the more they would appreciate what we've passed on to them. Now, I recognize that we have 3 and 3.
I'll support tabling it, but I'd like to go on the record when we have a moment at the end of the meeting for our comments about what we did the last time we talked about a gas station.
Okay, sure. All right, well then I think, would,
Do we want to revote that again to make sure it's clear?
I think we
There was
need to
never
make
a motion.
I think we can make someone should make a motion with those conditions that we've already talked about. A motion to table with those conditions that we've already talked about.
I make a motion that we table this application with the conditions that we've discussed and listed.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, for me, I don't know how, in the eyes of the applicant, I would struggle to put a plan together in a month that would bring this to a quick conclusion for them. They need clear direction of what you want them to do so that they know how to bring this back, so that in 15 minutes they can say, here's my plan, here's my shrubbery, here's my idea. Because I can say I'm going to plant a 10-foot tree and at 8 feet I can prune it, right? Like, they need a clear vision that you have so that they can come back in a month. So in the eyes of the applicant, I'm asking that
Are there,
we specify for them to have an idea.
Staff, are we detailed enough on the comments that we have?
Fairly certain. Does the applicant understand what's being asked for them on the table?
is there a portion of it that you would prefer clarified?
I do agree with Cameron. More landscaping is a general term. We don't know what the implications of that would be to the site without maybe a specific guideline. Just asking for extra is not really a discernible, quantified thing that we can address.
Let me see if I can clarify that. based on what I said about what the additional landscaping should accomplish, I would think that you could meet with Michelle and she could give you guidance as to how to accomplish that. Or you can hire a landscape architect, not me.
Conflict of interest. Would it be to, you know, bring that portion of it to the current code would be a recommendation? Just that portion, because we're not taking on the whole site?
Speaking for myself, I think that would be great, if it's
I'd have-
possible.
I'd have to look into it. I don't know what the implications are.
Yeah.
I don't have that in front of me.
And that's why I didn't suggest that we require it, because I don't know if it's possible. But I would suggest with staff, reviewing it and seeing how close you can get. And in places where you can't do it, coming up with creative solutions like interior plantings or something like that.
My question there would be, we postpone this for 30 days, we meet with staff, we go over, the staff is acceptable, because we came in here with an acceptable plan based upon the staff, and then George sees it, and it's not acceptable, and we're back to square one again.
Well, George is only one vote.
Yeah, I understand that, George, and I love you, buddy. That has nothing to do with it. It's a clear understanding. And I feel like we understand what your intent, what you're trying to explain, and what you would like, the goal, end result goal would be. And I was sitting here thinking about that, and not to bring up more discussion onto it, but we proposed 6 new spaces backing up behind First Bank that is more in keeping with what you were talking about as that gateway. And we could possibly turn that into a much larger landscaped area. And doing so, that may help you with that conceptual view that you're looking at, because we do have those, and they're new proposed spaces. So you're sitting here talking, I'm sitting here trying to figure out how we can accomplish what you're wanting to do. So we're all with the same intent of the final result that we would want to do it. I would ask you not to postpone it, or to give us the recommendations and let us bring to staff a proposal based upon your recommendations, because the staff is going to turn right around and give them back to you. The fact that you get to look at them one more time, you've told me what you want. I'm used to hearing demands when we're looking at it, and we're not denying that they're pretty good ideas. We can work with some of those. But that does take us another 30 days out, when we have a very capable staff we're working with and engineers to create a view of what you do. And it would be great if we could invite you in to look at it with us and staff and doing it. You are a landscape architect, and you have in your head what you want it to be. Us waiting 30 days to hear your comments again aren't really achieving anything, when we can do it with a staff meeting with you involved to work this out and get the same thing accomplished, so that we can move forward, but get the same goal. And I feel very comfortable that we can do this. Chase has spent hours diligently, weekends, or even on his vacation, to prepare this, to bring it to you the night, even on vacation, to get this. And I would love your input, but I think we could do that at the staff meeting to get that. And then if it doesn't meet that, then we can say, what else do we need to do? It's not like I'm saying no. I'm saying that it's going to, if I wait 30 days, I may not get your opinion until the 30 days, and I think we can do that faster.
I appreciate that, and I hear what you're saying, and I apologize for the fact that this may be getting delayed, but it's not just George that needs to be satisfied.
Well, I said, anybody can be a part of that to see it, to make sure that you're getting, because the accomplishment won't be at the next meeting, it's what we present, and if we haven't presented what you really were seeing, then we haven't accomplished anything.
But that's not the way the system works. We can't meet separately with you and the staff. It's not allowed.
Well,
So,
But
that's why I'm not a politician.
in my experience, if you bring something back to us that is not to our liking generally, we will probably recommend changes and then
push it on.
push it on. So I don't foresee that, it's unlikely that it's going to be another month after that. I think what usually happens is it comes in and, and we look at the landscaping plan and we say, well, it mostly meets what we were looking for, but we would suggest a few more little changes and then on to the commissioners from there. So I don't think it's going to be an endless cycle of
This is
back and
just
forth.
a general comment on things that we see. And I'm gonna give my colleague here a pat on the back on his 2 properties that he's done in the last couple of years, including the one at Cedar and Live Oak. He didn't have to do all that landscape. It's beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful. And that's what we should be striving for in this town. That's my point. We're doing requirements and, 3 trees for every 1,000 feet and all this, whatever. But we're not doing what this man right here has committed to this community.
Well, Vic sets a good example.
Absolutely.
And we're not denying that. But we're also not denying that we aren't walking in here saying we're willing to work with you and create that. Now, I'm not maybe artistically as good as Vic is with the planning, but we will do something pretty. And George will be proud of it.
I think we're looking, from a landscaping standpoint, if this was a new lot that was being built for the first time, like the other gas station is, we're looking, and that had to meet our landscaping ordinance, I think we're looking for something that meets, what it would have then. What is in our landscaping ordinance. I think, in my,
Yes, I
does that
agree.
speak, does that? So,
Well, we'll bring you back what the new ordinance is talking about.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
So
right.
we need a vote.
I think we have a motion.
You have a motion and a second.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought, okay.
Well,
So we have a motion and a second. Did we open it for discussion?
No, so we do have a motion and a second, right? Any further, we were doing discussion, so I think we're still doing discussion. Any further discussion before we go to a vote?
I was just gonna ask if the recommendation is for it to go to the new ordinance, that's clear enough direction for them for
Or the,
the
The
current,
current LDO.
to bring it up to the current
bring it up to current standards?
standards. That's clear enough direction on landscaping to take it to the commissioners?
I'll look at Michelle on that. It's a pretty clear set of requirements, isn't it?
It's pretty arduous to meet those landscaping plans, yes.
And of course, the footnote would be, and I think your chair already recognized it, to the extent possible, since you're basically working within the confines of an existing development.
Because you recommended that we do table this to get clear direction for them.
I mean, that
But
would be my.
now
would-
that is clear direction, correct?
That would be my recommendation. Of course, you've got a different request from the applicant, and it's, at the end of the day, it's up to the board how to proceed with it. But you
I think.
do
that-
have a motion and second to
Yeah.
table it, I believe. So-
Yeah, and I think the difficulty with the direction we've given to the applicant, and he'll find that out, is that it would be very hard to apply the current standards to his lot, just because of the unique it's an existing business, there's an existing building. So it's, we're saying to the best of the ability possible, which is a lot of leeway. And I think the board, given that while it seems like a clear direction, there is a lot of leeway within that direction, I think the board would like to see what the applicant comes up with. At least that's my take on it. So, any other discussion? All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so two opposed. All right. All right. Thank you. That's why we don't get too many gas stations. You should have seen the one before the last one.
On Lennoxville.
On Lennox, the one on Lennoxville, yeah. All right, so we are on to case 2614, a special use permit at 217 Turner Street.
Long night.
Am I right on
Wait,
that?
we need to vote him back.
Oh, yes, all right, so we need a motion to unrecuse.
So moved.
Do we have a second? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, welcome back.
Can't do that.
All right, now, okay.
Do we want to wait until Ari comes back, taking a brief recess while we get him back in, or we can
Yes.
proceed on the presentation?
Okay, recess? All right, let's take a brief recess.
Little one.
5 minutes.
Yep.
All right.
He's back.
Oh, he's back. Well, people might need to stand up and stretch. Back to the
All right,
Our next item,
quick 5 minutes.
I like this.
As is usual, we front you with the more difficult item and then reel it back for the second one. Our next case to review is a special use permit request to operate an accessory dwelling unit at 217 Turner Street. The property at 217 Turner is located at the southwest corner of Broad Street and Turner Street. This site is within the R8 residential medium density district, which allows for accessory dwelling units as special uses. The properties across Turner Street and across the intersection are TR, transitional, but all the other abutting properties are also R8. The future land use classification for this property and surrounding area is traditional neighborhood residential. It's a widespread district which includes many neighborhoods across town. It identifies that single-family homes with accessory dwelling units are typical uses in this classification. This subject property is within the local historic district, and as such this development is subject to approval with a certificate of appropriateness by the Beaufort Historic Preservation Commission. The property owner must obtain zoning approval, a special use permit in this case, prior to requesting a COA from the HPC. The design guidelines for Beaufort Historic District and landmarks will control visible aspects of this development, including walls, roofs, decks, porches, paving, landscaping, and lighting. The primary structure existing on this property hosts a historic plaque identifying it as the Delmar Gibble House of 1866. This historic structure has been used for years as the Inn at Turner Bed and Breakfast. After purchasing this property earlier this year, the property owners have indicated that they are utilizing it as a 4-bedroom single-family home rather than a 4-room inn. As the new owners make plans for this property, they look to the storage shed in the backyard and express interest in converting it to an ADU. Staff advised that the increases in footprints would have to meet the setback, which drove the proposed adjustments to the structure in concert with the special use permit request. So a portion of the shed that's being expanded is within the setback on the property. The 3 on-site parking spaces are proposed to remain with the renovation and conversion of the accessory structure. With the reduced intensity of the inn's transition into a single-family home, far fewer spaces are required, so these 3 spaces are appropriate use for the house and ADU. No landscaping is proposed as it is not required for this application. Street trees are not present in this area due to overhead power lines. As this property is within Beaufort's local historic district, the design guidelines apply to the appearance of the structure, landscaping, and site features. While the design guidelines are administered by the HPC and are not part of special use permit review, the location of this request within a residential zone does require review of compatibility with adjoining buildings. The application provides details in accordance with section 20.E.3, exterior elevations and proposed materials to be used for this renovation. I will note that most special use permit requests within residential districts are not also subject to these historic district design guidelines when looking at the number of residentially zoned properties in and out of the historic district. The compatibility standards do heavy lifting in regular neighborhoods, but provide a double set of standards for historic district properties. So keep in mind that massing, height, proportion, materials, color, and similar aspects of the project must meet historic guidelines. Any conflicting conditions from the special use permit process could reduce feasibility for this project. Staff suggests that the project will inherently be compatible with adjoining buildings due to the stringent certificate of appropriateness process required after the special use permit process. That being said, the applicant has provided the required responses to the residential zone compatibility standards regarding the proposed renovation and addition to the structure and provided elevations. In order for a special use permit to be granted, special required findings must be met. So this is a list of requirements against which to measure a special use permit request. Typically, we only look at numbers 1 and 2, but because this special use permit request is for a property within the residential zoning district, subsection 3 also applies as well, despite the interrelatedness with the town's historic district guidelines. Tonight, we request that the planning board review the application, and with the LDO and particularly section 20.e in mind, make one of these recommendations. I can answer any questions the board has for staff prior to the applicant's presentation.
Thank you very much. Vic?
Michelle, have you had any input from neighbors, anybody surrounding in the neighborhood?
I haven't heard from anyone, no.
Michelle?
Yes, sir.
I'm a little foggy. The site they want to add to the building,
Yes, sir.
and the building's already non-conforming,
Right.
and they want to make it more non-conforming.
No. So the addition is going to be conforming. The portion of the structure that's non-conforming is being, renovated but not added onto.
So any addition will meet the requirements of setbacks and dimensional requirements.
Yes, sir.
Now I'm not foggy.
Does that also mean that the portion of the building that is in the front setback is going to remain and not be demolished and replaced?
Correct. They're going to keep the existing shed,
And then add that?
and then just the little porch that you can see there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So the process is gonna come to us tonight, and then it goes to the historic, and
This
then the board, or?
special use permit will go to planning board and then board of commissioners, and then from there, the historic commission will review the certificate of appropriateness. So two separate processes, one has to happen before the next.
And did this go through the Board of Adjustment at all, since it was non-conforming to begin with? Okay.
Wait a minute, but I think you just said they were going to change the structure so it met setbacks, so they wouldn't need a variance, so it wouldn't need to go to the adjusters, correct?
The adjustments to the building are not proposing to exceed setbacks.
Okay.
They'll leave the old part where it is and put some, so no additional nonconformities.
Correct.
All right. Any further questions?
How many occupancies in the,
I'm sorry?
how many occupancies will there be when they finish? Or dwelling units?
So on the site currently, there's one single-family home where there used to be a 4-room bed and breakfast. So now it's just a regular house. And then they've got this shed in the backyard that they're proposing to transition into an ADU.
Persist to be a single-family home.
I'm sorry?
It will persist to be a single-family home.
That is our understanding, yes, sir.
Does an ADU incur any additional impact fees or sewer connection fees?
They'll have to go through the building permit process, and at that point, the water department would address any fees with them.
All right.
The taps, whatever's in the area, that kind of thing, yeah.
Okay. Any further questions? Anyone care to make a motion?
I'll motion.
Do you want to have the applicant come up and speak?
Oh,
or
sorry,
have
yeah.
we gotten all, we
Sorry,
have
the
everything we
applicant
need from the applicant, and that's fine too.
Came all this way, might as well. If the applicant would like to make a comment,
You might want to stop there.
waited all through that gas station.
Hi, I'm George Aiken, 217 Turner Street. Love to answer any of your questions. Michelle did a good job.
Good move.
She did a good job describing what I want to do.
Well, my only question, I remember the last one we saw, the applicant had said that they were not renting it out. Is this going to be rented out?
No.
But I should add, I don't think we can make that a
No, I know, I was
requirement.
just curious.
Okay,
That's not my intention.
we
I
can't
was
make that a
curious.
condition. Oh,
I was making a motion
Yeah.
to approve the special use permit for 217 Turner
second.
Street.
and we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. Congratulations. On to the next board.
That was a great packet.
I want one like that in my backyard.
All right.
A packet like that. Oh, we get to hear from, oh. Kyle.
Oh, go
Chair,
ahead.
you
Oh,
ready?
sorry. Yep, go ahead,
Okay.
sorry, just.
All righty, so the next item that we have for you this evening is case number 26-15. It's at 309 Pollock Street, which just happens to be less than half a block away. And the request is a rezoning from R8, single-family residential, to Cedar Street mixed use. The applicant is Mr. Jack Taylor, who is with us this evening. The existing land use is, this is a vacant parcel. It's right at a quarter of an acre at .25 or 10,890 square feet. The CAMA land use plan does have this as traditional neighborhood residential. And so the applicant is also requesting a CAMA map amendment to the Cedar Street mixed use. The lot width is 55.28 feet per the survey, which is included in your packet. And this is, under the staff comments, is very similar to what we had last month in regards to the Cedar Street and its creation in 2019. It is important to note that the rezoning request you had before you last month was a corner lot, and this is an interior lot. Again, a rezoning and future land use plan amendment to CSMU would be consistent with adjacent zoning. The adjacent lot that you'll see here to the north in a minute on the zoning map that you have included in your packet and on a future slide will show that it is already zoned CSMU, as well as some of the land use patterns in the area. Again, the current CAMA land use has it identified as traditional neighborhood residential. Here's the survey that was provided for Croatan Investments and Mr. Jack Taylor, showing where those boundaries are for that particular lot. And then we wanted to have the zoning comparisons of what is required for the existing R8 and the proposed CSMU for lot size, lot width, setbacks, and so forth, as well as what would be required for single-family detached and also corner lots and interior lot requirements for commercial and mixed use. It should also be noted that even though these may be applied, if you further reference the sections out of the CSMU, it also says if you're an adjacent use to another use, that you are required to put your buffer